Part 20. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, Tianni. Chapter 191. Not only did Wang Sunqi's actions have no effect, the guard at the door actually scolded Wang Sunqi, "This is the Su mansion. How can we allow you to make noise here? If you don't leave quickly, don't blame us for being rude. You are so brave. You know who we are, but you dare to talk to me like this." When Wang Sun saw the guards acting like this, she thought they didn't hear clearly. "Who is he? Can you please tell me?" The guard had already received orders from an. Otherwise, according to the rules of the Su family, even if an ordinary person came to the door, he would not be so rude. "Listen carefully, this is the wife of Lord Tongpan, son of our Yiyang mansion. If you don't hurry up, let your master come out to greet you. If you neglect Madame Tongpan, you won't be able to afford it." Mrs. Wang Sun, she said proudly while standing next to her mother. Mrs. Tongpan didn't say anything but looked arrogant, thinking that the Su family was so ignorant of the rules and neglected her. She would definitely not look good to the Su family later, and she was here to find trouble. Mrs. Tongpan and Mrs. Wang Sun waited for the guard to change his expression after hearing their identities. Who knew that the guard's face showed disdain as soon as he heard their identities? "Tisk tisk, what kind of person do I think I am? I came to the door of Su's house and made nonsense. I'm just a lady of the 6th grade general judge." With such a big posture, people who don't know thought it was the princess who came. "How dare I say that we want our family to be here? If the master greets me, he won't be afraid of the wind blowing his tongue." "What did you say?" Wang Sun knew about the rumors about Su mansion, but she treated them as rumors and ignored them. When the guard said this, she felt a little bad in her heart. Could it be that Su mansion really hit a big shot they couldn't afford to offend? Well, otherwise I wouldn't have such an attitude. Mrs. Tongpan, Mrs. Zhang, has never heard of these rumors. Otherwise, she would know the importance and be better able to judge the authenticity of the words than her daughter. It is not known whether she will come to the Su mansion today. At this time, she heard the guards of the Su mansion say this. The arrogant words were a bit unbelievable. Tong San was one of the best in Yiyang mansion. This was the first time that she had been looked down upon like this. Even a servant didn't take her seriously. Naturally, the guard was not polite when he received the order. Seeing Mrs. Zhang's question, he added, "You didn't hear clearly. It's such a loud voice. I dare you, this old lady, to be deaf. I told you to go wherever you came from. Su mansion is not a place for you to act wild. Listen clearly this time." "I did hear it clearly. I couldn't hear it more clearly. It wasn't that I didn't hear it clearly, but that I didn't believe that the servants of the Su mansion would treat her like this." Mrs. Tongpan felt that she was still young and well maintained, so why was she being treated like this? She was called old lady, but the guard didn't mean to say old lady in a respectful way. It was clear that she was older, and Zhang's face turned red with anger. Naturally, Mrs. Zhang couldn't just listen to the guards and leave like this. Then she would lose all faith in her life. She pointed to a guard beside her. Go to Xinyi County and call the Xinyi County magistrate. I want to ask you questions. Ask him how he manages this place in Xinyi and allows unruly people to run rampant. Let him come here quickly, otherwise he will no longer be the county magistrate." Mrs. Zhang was also furious, otherwise she wouldn't have said something stupid. Even if the county magistrate is one rank lower than the general magistrate, he may need the permission of the court to revoke the appointment. It is not the general magistrate who has the final say. What's more, Mrs. Zhang is just a housewife, so how can she interfere with the affairs of the court? Being caught by someone with intentions is a crime. Wang Sun became more and more uneasy, fearing that those rumors were true, but she was angry at being so slighted by the Su family. She wanted to teach the people of the Su family a lesson, and she didn't want to let Su go easily. Therefore, Even though he was uneasy, he hesitated and did not tell Zhang about those rumors. Maybe these were the Su family's bluff to scare them away and not fall into Su Wenayu's trap. Seeing Zhang's reaction, the guard wanted to call the county magistrate, but he didn't pay much attention, with a flash of ridicule in his eyes. The old lady asked me to come here to ask questions. Who dares to make noise in front of the Su mansion and come to the Su mansion to cause trouble? Bai Lu, the maid next to the old lady, came over and glanced at the people in front of the mansion and said. Returning to the old lady, this old lady claims to be the wife of Tongpan of Yiyang Mansion, but she doesn't look like it. I'm afraid someone borrowed the name of MRS Tongpan to come to our Su mansion to cause trouble. Not to mention MRS Tongpan. Huizi should be in Yiyang Fukan, so how could he come to this rural place? How could MRS Tongpan be so uneducated, come to someone's house to make trouble for no reason, and often say things to instruct the county magistrate? What can only be done by an ignorant village woman? Please tell me how to deal with these people. There is also such a thing. You dare to pretend to be MRS Tongjian and come to our house to cause trouble. It is really lawless. What else can you ask about such a thing? Just take the person and send him to the county government office and let the county magistrate punish you. Yes, Bai Lu was very favored by the old lady, and she could make decisions directly without having to think through such small matters. The guard didn't hesitate when he got Bai Lu's words, and immediately called the other guards in the mansion. A group of guards came out and surrounded him, trying to capture MRS Tongpan and his party. What do you want to do? I am really MRS Tongpan. If you dare to mess around, I can't spare you. MRS Zhang was very angry and panicked when she saw the people from Su Mansion gathered around her. She is obviously MRS Tongpan, the guard. She actually said that she was a fake, and Wang Sun was a little timid when she saw the large number of people in Su Mansion. Don't mess around. My mother is really the wife of the magistrate. If you dare to do it, you will be in big trouble. By the way, isn't Su back? She knows me. If you let her out, you will know whether we are fake or not. Yes, you let Su out. She is so bold that she dares to join forces with her family to attack me and my mother. When the time comes, not only will she be punished, but the boy surnamed Han will also lose his official position. Wang Sun wanted Su Wenyu to return to her family, just like grabbing a life-saving straw, and her attitude was very arrogant. The palace guards ignored it. Sun's meaning, who is our young lady? You can't just meet her whenever you want. You are making up so many excuses. You want to trick our young lady out with bad intentions. We won't be fooled by you. The old lady loves and protects her granddaughter Su Wenyu very much. As the old lady's favorite maid, Bai Lu naturally has the same attitude as the old lady. When she heard Sun's attitude when she mentioned Su Wenyu, Bai Lu felt very uncomfortable. Even if the second room was separated, Miss Wenyu was no longer the daughter of the Marquis's mansion, and she was still very noble. She was actually belittled by an ignorant lady. Why are you still wasting words with them? Send her to the county government office immediately and hand her over to the county magistrate for punishment. Such a lunatic must be severely punished. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, Tian Ni. Chapter 192. You dare, I am the Madam of Tongtang. You are so arrogant. Besieging officials and family members is not an ordinary minor crime. It is enough to send you all to prison. I think it is better for your master to come out and talk to this madam in person, otherwise you will regret it. If you want our master to speak out, even if you are really MRS Tongpan, you are not qualified, let alone a fake one. You keep saying that you are MRS Tongpan. Do you have proof? How else can I prove that I am MRS Tongpan? If I am fake, I need to prove it to one of your slaves. MRS Tongpan became more and more annoyed. When will it be a maid's turn to cross-examine her? It's not that there is no evidence, but she just feels that the maid is not qualified. On the other hand, the nanny who was following Mrs. Tongpan felt that something was not right. The wife's identity documents were kept with her in case of emergencies when she went out. When she went to look for them, she found that they were missing. Her face turned pale. "Husband, madam, your identity document is missing." "What are you talking about? My wife's identity document was not properly kept with you, how could it be missing?" When Ms. Zhang heard that her identity document was missing, she already realized that it was specially prepared for her. The trap made him a little panicked. "Madam, I checked it before setting off. I really don't know why it disappeared." Nanny knelt on the ground with a look of panic. She also knew that they had fallen into a trap set by others. With Madam's temperament, she would never spare her. "Humph, why are you missing? How could something as important as the identity documents be missing? They are obviously deliberately trying to trick us. They are all liars. Come on, please take these liars with ulterior motives to the county government. We are really not liars. If you ask Su Wenyu to come out, she will be able to prove our identity. You still want to lie to people? The young lady is still pregnant. Who knows what you, a woman, have in mind? We don't dare to let the young lady come out and take this risk. If you have anything to say, please tell the county magistrate." Zhang and Sun did not expect that people from the Su mansion not only talked about it, but actually dared to tie them up and send them to the county government. They were not afraid of going to the county government, and even planned to go to the county government to ask the county magistrate to deal with Su severely. He was from the government, but it was really embarrassing to be tied up and sent to the county government like this. "You bastards, how dare you do this to me, my wife? I will definitely punish you all when you get to the county government office." Ms. Zhang was really stimulated today. Not counting the verbal shock, she was actually escorted to the county government office. "For the first time in this life, I am afraid that the real famous court will become famous in the future." Mrs. Tangtong judge was caught by a merchant. Even if she punished these people afterwards, she would not be able to recover the face she lost. "Shut up, if you keep yelling, I'll plug your mouths with smelly socks." Seeing that Mrs. Tongpan and Mrs. Wang Sun refused to be honest, a guard threatened, which really frightened Mrs. Zhang and Mrs. Sun. Xiao 11 knew that Mrs. Tongpan was coming and had already gone to the front of the mansion to watch. If she hadn't been afraid that Mrs. Wang Sun would see her, she even wanted to do it herself. When she came back, she talked excitedly about Mrs. Tongpan and Mrs. Wang Sun's embarrassed look. "Miss, you don't know how ridiculous Mrs. Tongpan and Mrs. Sun look. You really think that the servants have misunderstood her identity? They yelled for you to get out. They even fought with the guards in the mansion and escorted them away." He screamed and yelled all the time. The more Xiao 11 talked about it, the more relieved she became. She was beaming when she described it. "It's so funny. We really offended Mrs. Tongpan this time," Su Wenyu said with a smile on her face. She has been worried a lot these days for Mrs. Tongpan and the Wang Sun family. If the old lady hadn't come this time, now that Mrs. Tongpan and the Wang Sun family are being punished like this, she is naturally relieved. "Daughter, you don't have to worry. This is what your grandmother meant. With your grandmother's support, neither Zhang nor Sun can jump up and down. You just need to take care of the child in your belly. My daughter saves money. I felt at ease when I saw my grandmother today. I am not afraid of the means. Mrs. Tongpan can only use her status to overpower me. I am not afraid of other things." The same is true, Su Wenyu. Even though they knew the arrangement of their grandmother and mother, they didn't stop it, which made Mrs. Tongpan and Mrs. Wang Sun so embarrassed. "Mom, Grandma seems to have a prejudice against my husband." Su Wenyu said this with a worried look on her face. Han Yu came with her in the morning, but Grandma only saw her and had no intention of meeting Han Yu. She also asked about the child in her belly, but she didn't mention the child's father at all. Your grandmother is not targeting Han Yu, but she is dissatisfied with your grandfather's arrangement. Even I felt that the status of her son-in-law was low, not to mention your grandmother. Your grandmother feels the same way now. Her precious granddaughter is married to a farmer, it's normal not to want to see him. Don't worry, your son-in-law is a capable person with good character. Your grandmother will change her mind after she understands him. Mrs. So comforted her daughter, seeing that her daughter is like this. Grown up. I hope so, but now that I see that my son-in-law is more affectionate to me than my daughter, I stand by him in everything, so that I am controlled by him, and the servants in the family also listen to him. So when Ayu felt relieved. She was worried, so she held An's arm and complained. She didn't believe that this matter had nothing to do with her mother. It was probably her mother who wanted to give the order. I am doing this for your own good. You have to be controlled by someone because of your naughty and playful personality. Otherwise, you will definitely make a scene. Besides, you are about to become a mother. Your son-in-law is also worried about you, so he specially asked for help from me. You have to believe in your mother's means. The servants from the Su family will still be on your side at the critical moment. Su Wenyu rolled her eyes and thought to herself that it was true. She said that Han Yu was treacherous and actually came to her mother to ask for help without her knowledge. The mother and daughter of the Su family were talking affectionately. Zhang's mother and daughter were taken to the county government office by the servants of the Su family. The servants of the Su family beat the drum of complaint. The county magistrate went to the court to question the case. He was a little dumbfounded when he saw the situation in the court. He thought that his eyes were blurry. Then he saw that the person in the court was actually the wife of the Tongpan. He immediately asked people to untie Zhang's mother and daughter. I greet the Madam Tongpan. What's going on? Why was Madam Tongpan tied up and brought to court? Magistrate Chu said as he looked at the servants of the Su mansion. Because the guards who brought Zhang here were the old lady's guards, Magistrate Chu did not recognize them as people from the Su mansion. Master Chu, these lunatics are so bold that they dared to attack this lady. You should arrest them. Zhang was angry when she saw Magistrate Chu, and asked him to arrest all the servants of the Su family and put them in jail. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, TNNI. Chapter 193. The guard who led the way escorting Mrs. Tongpan did not panic at all under the gaze of Magistrate Chu. He described what happened and emphasized that Mrs. Tongpan did not have an identity document to prove her identity. They just misunderstood Mrs. Tongpan. He was impersonated and repeated some of Zhang's arrogant words. Mrs. Sun's behavior is vulgar, and her words are often suspected of interfering in government affairs. She also categorically said that she would remove the county magistrate from his official position. Such arrogance and boldness are really not something that Mrs. Tongpan can do, and she is not capable of doing so. With the document that could prove her identity, the servants in the government naturally thought that Mrs. Sun was a fake, so they sent Mrs. Sun to the county government. Mrs. Sun, is there such a thing? Magistrate Chu's face was not very good. Even though his official position was not high, he was still an official assigned by the imperial court. The parent official of Xinyi County was dismissed by a housewife. This is simply disrespectful. His insult was just that Magistrate Chu had been an official for so many years and had seen a lot of dark and corrosive things in the officialdom. Even if he had temper, he suppressed it in his heart, but his face was just a little ugly. Ms. Zhang was a bit speechless when asked by County Magistrate Chu. Although she didn't think highly of Magistrate Chu, who was a subordinate, she still had to rely on Magistrate Chu to do things for her at this time. Naturally, She couldn't admit that those words made Magistrate Chu embarrassed. Who was she? After so many years as an official wife, Mrs. Zhang quickly reacted. How can there be such a thing? A bold and unruly man dares to accuse my wife. This is nonsense. Magistrate Chu, please do not listen to this unruly man. When Zhang said this, the guard did not argue. He just stood there with a cold expression and pointed his sword, waiting for Magistrate Chu to speak. Because the situation was so surprising and confusing, no one noticed that the guard did not salute the county magistrate after he came in. Even now, he is standing and talking to the county magistrate, Mrs. Zhang. County Magistrate Chu noticed it, but didn't say anything. When he found out that the guard was from Su Mansion, Magistrate Chu became more thoughtful. Not to mention that his wife was on good terms with Mrs. Su, he was a little more tolerant of the Su family. Others didn't know the details of the Su family, but he knew it. People in the Su family were not the ones who didn't know the rules, which shows that the guard had an official position, but Mrs. Tongpan was so indifferent that she didn't notice that the guard had no fear of her. There was only one explanation for this. The guard's master was more powerful than Mrs. Tongpan. Mrs. son, your words are just one-sided, and it's hard for me to judge. County Magistrate Chu was also in a dilemma. Although he didn't like Mrs. son in his heart, after all, she was Mrs. Tongpan, and he was not someone he could offend in the Su Mansion. Started. County Magistrate Chu, I will not make things difficult for you. The rest can be said to be one-sided. However, it is true that these unscrupulous people offended my wife. You can always deal with it. This. County Magistrate Chu looked at the guard, asking him to reveal his identity, otherwise he would really have no choice but to arrest the person. After all, Mrs. son was a member of the official family, and it was a fact that people from the Su family had offended Mrs. son. Your Excellency, County Magistrate, I have also obeyed the order of my master, the guard said coldly, which means that if you want to settle accounts, you can go to our master. Mrs. Tongpan was waiting for the guard to say, Mr. Chu, you heard it? It's his master who did this. Go and take down the master of the Su family. Mrs. son, do you really want to do this? County Magistrate Chu hesitated, but had other considerations in mind. Why, I heard that County Magistrate Chu's wife has a very good relationship with Mrs. Su. Could it be that Magistrate Chu wants to help the Su family? Mrs. Zhang's words were a bit sharp. I don't dare to lower my rank. Magistrate Chu made a respectful gesture on his face, but there was a hint of sarcasm in his eyes. Humph, I'm sorry you don't dare. In that case, just come with me to arrest people. Mrs. son saw that Magistrate Chu was hesitant. She also heard that the magistrate's wife was on good terms with Madame Su, and she was worried that Magistrate Chu would favor Su. If the family doesn't do things well, I have to go with him, just in time to show off his power in front of the Su family and regain the face he lost earlier. Yes, I obey your order. After hearing what Mrs. son said, Magistrate Chu clearly had a look of success, but it was too fast and no one noticed it. Mrs. Tongpan led Magistrate Chu to arrest people in the Su Mansion. The guard actually had no objection at all. He followed them back to the Su family. The guard's face was always cold, and there was no change in his mood. What on earth were you thinking? The county magistrate's wife heard from the back that someone came to report that the magistrate was going to Su Mansion to arrest someone. She was a little worried, so she quickly asked someone to put on their clothes and went forward. Since the magistrate's wife was present, it was not easy to ask too many questions, so she got knowing that the Su family would be fine with her husband's hint. She felt relieved, but she followed him in the end. A group of people went to the Su family in a mighty manner, including not only the servants that Zhang had brought from the Tongpan mansion, but also the county government servants and the servants of the Su family. Passers-by stopped when they saw it. Zhang was sitting in the carriage. She looked outside, feeling extremely proud of Her Majesty. She also thought that when it came to the Su family scene, this time she got the handle. Even if the Su family people knelt down to plead for her, she would not let him off easily. Pass. The Su family has a good reputation in the local area and is deeply protected by the local people. Seeing so many people going to the Su family, as well as a group of government officials, they were all worried that something had happened to the Su family. They hurriedly went to the Su family to report the news. Family reward. Grandma, you are so good at predicting things. As expected, Mrs. John came with her government servants to kill her, so when Ayu woke up energetic after a long sleep. At this time, she came to the old lady and listened to the servants reporting the whereabouts of Mrs. John and her entourage. She laughed. Road. You're such a sweet-talking girl. Don't worry, my grandmother is here to help. None of those who bully our girls can get away with it. The old lady encountered her granddaughter being bullied when she first arrived, so naturally she couldn't agree to it. Old lady Su calculated that it was almost time, so she went back to her room and asked the maid to help her change into the imperial robes that she would wear when she went to the palace to pay homage or attend a banquet. Once she put on the imperial robes, her temperament changed. The old lady who was kind and gentle just now turned into a majestic elder. Even Su Wenayu was a little nervous when she didn't smile. How is it, Grandma, do you look majestic in this dress? The old lady seemed to have noticed her granddaughter's mood and asked cheerfully, and the atmosphere became much more relaxed. Su Wenayu was just temporarily uncomfortable. Hearing this, she smiled and said, Grandma looks so majestic in this dress. Even my granddaughter is shocked by Her Majesty. Zhang brought a group of people to the Su mansion. This time, they were more aggressive than before. They rushed in with people and were blocked at the door again by the guards of the Su mansion. How dare you stop me? Take down all these unruly people who are obstructing the government's investigation, Zhang pointed at the Yamen runners and said. However, the Yamen runners did not listen to Zhang, but looked at County Magistrate Chu. They only listened to County Magistrate Chu's orders. Seeing that the Yamen runners did not listen to her orders, Zhang also looked at County Magistrate Chu with a somewhat unfriendly look. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, TNNI. Chapter 194. Master Chu, I believe you will not protect the Su family, right? Zhang said with a somewhat threatening tone. Don't worry, Mrs. Tongpan. I will definitely not protect anyone. It's just that it doesn't seem good to rush in so hastily. I'd better let someone report it. County Magistrate Chu is a smart man, and naturally he will not do stupid things with Zhang. Who knew what was going on inside, so he dared to rush in rashly. If there was really someone inside, he couldn't afford it. Besides, he had no grudge against the Su family in the first place, and even the relationship between the two families was quite good, so he came here. As a last resort. The master is right, it's better to report it. Mrs. Wei, the county magistrate's wife, also supported her. She was naturally on the side of the Su family, thinking that if there was something, she would give the Su family time to deal with it. Ever since her two daughters-in-law became pregnant, the Wei family has had an unprecedented friendly and grateful attitude toward the Su family. What's more, this Mrs. Tongpan seems to be too domineering and unforgiving. She knows that it is definitely not Su family's fault. What are you reporting so that you can leave time for them to escape? You have calculated well. Don't think that this lady doesn't know about your relationship with the Su family. You just want to help the Su family. Don't even think about it. Ms. Zhang was not angry. He glared at Mr. Wei fiercely, as if Mr. Wei had done something heinous, and angrily walked inside with his servants. The servants of the Su mansion stopped him symbolically for a moment, but then made no move. Zhang made his way unimpeded, grabbed a maid and asked for directions, and walked all the way to the main courtyard. The magistrate Chu and the magistrate's wife looked at each other and followed Zhang. Magistrate Chu wanted to adapt to the situation, and the magistrate's wife wanted to see if she could help. The servants of the Su mansion were not surprised at all when they saw MRS Tongpan barging in with someone. They didn't even react with any surprise. They took one look and turned away, silently doing what they were doing. MRS Zhang, the woman, was so focused on causing trouble for the Su family that she didn't notice these details at all. Magistrate Chu saw this and became more sure of her suspicions. The little maid led Zhang and his party into the courtyard. Before Zhang could ask questions, she heard voices and laughter inside. Zhang had never seen Su Wenyu, but Sun recognized Su Wenyu's voice immediately. "Mom, this is right. That bitch from the Su family is inside." After MRS Zhang got the affirmation, she didn't need to ask the little maid, and rushed in with her people. "Come here, give these daring and unruly people to my wife." MRS Zhang got stuck in the middle of her words, and then heard a popping sound. MRS Sun followed behind her. She was about to speak but lost her voice when she entered. When she saw the majestic old woman in imperial uniform sitting in front of her, she felt in her heart. They shuddered. They were all officials' relatives. No matter how weak their eyesight was, they would not fail to recognize that the official uniforms in front of them were the color of the second grade. Both Zhang and her daughter knelt down, and those who rushed in after them knelt on the ground. Magistrate Chu and the magistrate's wife followed behind and hurriedly stepped forward to salute when they heard the movement in front. "I pay my respects to Madam Ho." Madam is well. The county magistrate's wife only knelt down and bowed. However, County Magistrate Chu revealed the identity of the old lady above. The people in the room were shocked when they heard the name Madam Ho. "I wish I could knock my head to the ground. I was obviously here to arrest someone, but in the end I caught MRS Ho, who was above me. This is going to be unlucky." MRS Su was able to reveal her identity to County Magistrate Chu with just one breath. Her eyes swept over County Magistrate Chu and stayed for half a second. Since she could reveal her identity, she must have a close relationship with the Su family, and when they came in, they were following Zhang and his party. The government servants behaved restrainedly and felt confident. MRS Su glanced at the people kneeling on the ground, and then she said something after a long while. "Who are these people? Is the world so chaotic now? How dare a random cat or dog break into my Su's house and point at I scold you because I don't care about you, or I don't care about Bayan Marquis Mansion, or I don't care about the Imperial Court at all." MRS Su's words were quite calm, but the people kneeling on the ground were frightened. What were they saying? How dare they not take the court seriously? This is a charge of rebellion. "Grandma, this is the wife of our Lord Tongpan in Yiyang Mansion. It is said that Lord Tongpan is one of the best in our Yiyang Mansion. No wonder Madam Tongpan dares not to take the court seriously. I heard that the county magistrate is even removed. Your Majesty's official position, forgive your granddaughter for being ignorant. I have never heard of a housewife being able to interfere with the affairs of the court. The world has really changed." Su Wenyu also laughed and said. When MRS Tongpan heard Su Wenyu say these words, her already pale face turned even paler. At this time, she no longer cared about resenting Su Wenyu. If MRS Ho really pinned these charges on her, not only would she be unlucky, but the Sun family would also be in trouble. Big trouble. When the time comes, dismissal from office will be a trivial matter. Contempt of the court is tantamount to treason, which is a major crime of confiscating one's family and exterminating one's clan. There is such a thing. MRS Wang, is this true? MRS Su asked coldly, seeming to be considering something. To MRS Ho, even if you give me 100 courages, I won't dare to despise the imperial court or interfere in the affairs of the imperial court. At that time, I was talking nonsense and I couldn't take it seriously. Please forgive me, MRS Ho. I don't dare to do it anymore. MS Zhang was so nervous that she even stuttered when she spoke. I'm sorry you don't dare. It's just that the trouble you are causing for my granddaughter is real. Yu Enyang has been pregnant for nearly 5 months now. If something goes wrong because of some people's bad intentions, let's see what I can spare. I dare not. Zhang's mother and daughter were frightened to death by the questioning of the marquis wife, and they just kept begging for mercy. They never thought that Su Wenyu, the daughter of a merchant, would have such a powerful background. Otherwise, they would not dare to come to her door even if they were given 100 courage. Sun was regretful. She thought it was just a rumor, but it turned out to be true. She was really hurt by Chen and Wang. County Magistrate Chu and his wife were also beating their hearts. Their bare legs were numb from kneeling. Although the incident seemed to have nothing to do with them, it happened in Xinyi. They were even more frightened by the majesty of the marquis wife. Su Wenyu helped them up and let them sit down. Zhang's mother and daughter were not so lucky. Although their knees hurt after kneeling for a long time, they could only kneel honestly without the marquis wife saying anything. Coming out of the Su mansion supporting each other, Zhang's mother and daughter felt covered in cold sweat, their legs felt weak, and they felt completely exhausted. The wife of Marquis Bian was so powerful and terrifying that she seemed to be able to see through their thoughts with just one look. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, Tianni. Chapter 195. Mom, are you okay? Sun Qinru supported Mrs. Zhang, feeling a little guilty. If it weren't for her mother, she wouldn't have been so humiliated by Mrs. Bian. However, she remembered the humiliation this time, even though she was afraid of Bian. Mrs. Ho, Sun Qinru's temperament of holding grudges has not changed. She did not dare to do anything to Mrs. Ho of Bian, but she put all the blame on Su Wenyu's head. Don't worry, mother is fine. It's just that we can't offend the Su family anymore. We can't afford to offend someone as powerful as Bian Haofu. If Mrs. Bian Ho was not willing to let us go, we wouldn't know what happened today. How far will it go? Your father is not a long-term lover. If it comes to that, for the sake of his future and family, he will probably abandon us. Mother and daughter Mrs. Zhang looked at someone who was not very smart, and felt a little confused. I understand everything in my heart. Mom Sun Qinru was a little sad to see her mother like this, and she swallowed some of the words she said. Since her father was unreliable, she had to find a way to get her husband-in-law to rise to an official position, at least not as high as those of the concubines. Lo, thinking about the proud looks of those concubines in front of her, she felt angry, but who made her fall in love with Wang Dongsheng at first glance? It was impossible to hide what happened today from her father, but she had to tell the story as much as possible. It's not that serious. The Zhang family and their daughter had left, and it was hard for Magistrate Chu and his wife to stay at this time. After all, they did not have such a big backer and could not afford to offend Mr. Tongxian. Mrs. Su and Su Wenyu enthusiastically tried to persuade them to stay, and they also know the difficulties faced by Magistrate Chu and his wife. Yu Niang, please ask the boy named Han to come in and let grandma see her grandson-in-law. Mrs. Su wanted to see Han Yu at this time. Su Wenyu saw that Mrs. Su had not yet changed out of her imperial uniform, and that she was unconcealedly unhappy when she mentioned Han Yu. She sighed inwardly and called Han Yu in. Was her grandmother trying to test her husband, or was she giving him a favor? Is your husband going to show off his power? It seems that my grandmother is also dissatisfied with the marriage arranged by her grandfather. After all, Han Yu was a poor boy in the countryside. Even if he is now a 7th-rank official, his background cannot be changed. However, she believes that her husband, grandmother, you will definitely change your mind after meeting your husband. Isn't that the case with my mother? Grandma, my husband is a very good man, and he treats me even better. Don't make things difficult for me. After all, he is also your grandson-in-law now. I know, girls are outgoing, so now they are courting you. For the sake of the children in your belly, I don't want to embarrass their father. My grandmother is just checking for you, letting Han Yu know that my granddaughter is not that good. The one you marry must be treated well and cherish you even more. She asked the maid to call Han Yu, but the old lady refused to let Su Wenyu stay in the room and wanted to meet alone. Sir Su Wenyu held Han Yu's hand worriedly. Don't worry, Grandma, she just wants to test me in the school. You have to trust your husband and go to rest first. I will come back to you. Han Yu comforted Su Wenyu and touched Su Wenyu's head, and asked his servants to escort Su Wenyu. Go back to room and rest. I don't know what they talked about in the room. When Su mentioned Han Yu again, her attitude became much better and she acknowledged her grandson-in-law. Su Wenyu thought it must be Han Yu's performance that satisfied the old lady. After all, it goes without saying that the future prime minister is capable, so he should have no problem coaxing an old lady. Su Wenyu and Han Yu stayed at Su's house for only 2 days before going back. After all, Han Yu still had to be on duty and had to go back to deal with many things. The old lady originally wanted to keep Su Wenyu for a few more days, but Su Wenyu didn't worry about her family. A big stall, that is her home. After all, she is a married daughter, and it is not good for her to live in her parents' house all the time. Even though Su Wenyu knew that Han Yu was not a narrow-minded person, she was still afraid that Han Yu would think too much, so she insisted on going back together. Han Yu knew that his wife was caring about his thoughts, and in her heart gratitude. Fortunately, Su Wenyu went back together. A few days later, Old Man Han and Mr. Yang drove an ox cart and pulled a cart of things. Because the road was far, they drove the ox cart. They set off at dawn in the morning and arrived. I arrived when it was dark at night and searched for a while before I found Han Yu's residence. When she learned that her father-in-law and mother-in-law were coming, Su Wenyu held her belly full and asked the maid to help her out. Han Yu also came back at this time, helping old Han unload the things on the bullock cart. Most of them were grain. The family had a good harvest of grain. The old couple thought that it was not easy for the fourth couple to go out and they had to buy everything. The grain was delivered to them when the family had it. Lu was not stingy this time, thinking on weekdays, the fourth child and his wife are constantly running out of things at home. They picked up the sun-dried food at home and asked their father-in-law and mother-in-law to bring it to them. They also specially caught 2 big fat hens and a basket of eggs. It was really great. It's quite thoughtful. Dad, Mom, if you want to come over, why don't you send someone to give us a message? I'll send a carriage back to pick you up. You must be tired from driving the ox cart all the way. It doesn't matter. Driving the bullock cart all the way is not tiring. It's much easier than working in the fields. We don't want to bring a carriage to pick you up. We don't want to cause trouble to you and your. Anyway, we have collected all the food at home. Not busy, not in a hurry. Old Man Han waved his hand and said with a smile, feeling happy to see his son-in-law. However, Yang focused on Su Wenyu's belly. Fourth daughter-in-law, you have a big belly. It's only been less than 6 months. How come you have such a big belly? You can't overdo it? It's hard to have a child that's too big. Yang was not afraid that her daughter-in-law would eat too much. She was not the kind of person who liked to torture her daughter-in-law for the grandson she had finally waited for. Naturally, she hoped that she would take good care of her daughter-in-law. However, she had given birth to several children and had experience. She knew that the bigger the belly, the harder it would be to give birth. The fourth daughter-in-law was the first child and she was petite. She was afraid that they were young and inexperienced and thought that the more they ate, the better. Fourth daughter-in-law, mother has no other intentions. I'm not afraid that you will eat too much. I've given birth to so many children. This is our experience as an old man. As Yang said this, she was afraid that Su Wenyu would misunderstand her meaning, so she hurried to explain. After all, the fourth daughter-in-law was a hot-tempered person. It would be bad if she misunderstood. Yang still remembered the unpleasantness at home before, so she was very careful in her attitude towards Su Wenyu. "Mom, don't worry, I won't think too much about it." The maids also said so. "They pay attention to my food and clothing. But I'm pregnant with 2 children, so my belly is extra big." Su Wenyu is not ungrateful. She can hear that her mother-in-law is concerned about her, and what her mother-in-law said is indeed reasonable. Naturally, she accepted her mother-in-law's kindness, but she doesn't know what her parents-in-law plan to do this time. Su Wenyu led Old Man Han and Yang into the yard. Old Man Han and Yang were surprised and sighed again. "My goodness, such a big yard, it must cost a lot of money to rent it a month, right?" Yang said with some dissatisfaction in her tone. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, TNNI. Chapter 196. In Yang's opinion, her son has never been so economical and would not spend so much. It must be the daughter-in-law's intention. She feels that Su Wenyu is too bad at living. How much does it cost to rent such a yard? If you save this money, it will be enough for daily life. Well, after all, she comes from a wealthy family, and she doesn't know how expensive firewood, rice, oil, and salt are. It's just that her son is tired. I heard that being a small official like this doesn't bring much monthly salary, so I'm afraid it's all spent on it. This is a matter between the fourth child and his wife. Why are you asking so many questions? Old Man Han knew what his wife was thinking when he saw Yang doing this. He was afraid that something would happen to Yang again and offend everyone. Neither of them were happy. The family had already been separated. How the fourth child and his wife lived their lives was their own business. The hidden meaning in Yang's words was so obvious that Su Wenyu could not fail to hear it. She glanced at Hanyu and saw that Hanyu was in charge of this house. Although she knew how much money was spent, she did not want to answer Yang. Hanyu supported Su Wenyu without saying a word. Hearing Yang's words, Hanyu said, "I didn't spend any money on this house. I rented it because my mother-in-law felt sorry for her daughter-in-law. My monthly salary is enough to support the family. I have a lot of entertainment on weekdays. It costs money to spend on everything, and thanks to Yu Niang's dowry money, she often subsidizes it." Hanyu said this with a bit of shame on his face. "It's because I don't have the ability. Even the wedding gifts are taken from the dowry by my wife. Otherwise, I can be more filial to my parents." When Su Wenyu heard what Hanyu said, she glanced at Hanyu, who had a serious face as he said it. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly. This guy was really full of bad intentions. He even deceived his own parents, but she liked him very much. It turns out that it was rented by the in-laws. This is really a big deal. Ms. Yang was a little shocked and resentful when she heard that the house was rented by the Su family. She mistakenly blamed the fourth daughter-in-law. She heard that Hanyu didn't spend enough to pay back the house. She had to rely on her fourth daughter-in-law for subsidies, and Ms. Yang was even a little short of breath. She thought her son would live a good life as an official, but it turned out that was not the case at all. It clearly meant that he often relied on his daughter-in-law for subsidies, otherwise he would not even know how to do it. "They are all from my daughter-in-law. The fourth daughter-in-law is a good one. If you help her like this, she will remember the good things. When you become successful in the future, she will definitely let you live a good life." Now Yang's dissatisfaction was gone. She was afraid that Su Wenyu would not. He was willing to continue to help Hanyu and kept saying good things for Hanyu in front of Su Wenyu. What mother said, "Hanyu is my husband-in-law. If I don't help him, who can I help?" Su Wenyu said in a good mood. As long as Hanyu is willing to stand on her side, nothing else matters. Besides, she has also seen a lot of her mother-in-law. In terms of getting along with his daughter-in-law, Yang is pretty good except for his soft-eared nature and his tendency to meddle in other people's business. Seeing that Han Yu's parents were here, the servants of the family hurriedly saluted and said hello. They restrained old man Han and Mr. Yang, and they didn't know where to put their hands and feet. After asking again, it turned out that these servants were also sent by the Su family. For those who came here, even the monthly payment was paid by the Su family, so Su Wenyu and the others didn't have to bear the burden. They knew that the in-laws were interested, and felt a little ashamed. As parents, they were not as good as the in-laws, who would do everything for the young couple. Think about it. Dad, Mom, the food and hot water are ready. You have worked hard after traveling all day. Eat first and then take a shower and have a good sleep. Let's talk about anything you want tomorrow, Su Wenyu said with a smile again. Hey, okay. Okay, the fourth daughter-in-law's arrangements were thoughtful and appropriate, and there was nothing they shouldn't do. After making arrangements with her father-in-law and mother-in-law, Su Wenyu let Han Yu help her back to the room. When she walked to the room, she was already out of breath. Now her belly was getting bigger and bigger. Although she was only 6 months old, it was as big as a person's belly about to give birth. It was a bit difficult to walk. If her father-in-law and mother-in-law hadn't come, she really wouldn't have bothered to move around. Daughter-in-law, you've worked hard, let's take a good rest. Han Yu had originally advised him not to let Su Wenyu do this, but his wife insisted on going in person, saying that it was her daughter-in-law's wish, so he couldn't stop her. This is to stop his daughter-in-law from showing off in front of her parents. He is happy to see his daughter-in-law get along well with her parents. Anyway, the parents are just here to deliver things and they won't be able to stay for a few days. In order not to worry Su Wenyu, Han Yu made all the arrangements before going to the military camp the next day before going out. Fourth daughter-in-law, you're awake, but be careful, you're pregnant with 2. Su Wenyu woke up and was about to call someone to serve her when she heard Yang speaking in a loud voice, which startled her. Then she remembered that her father-in-law and mother-in-law came last night, but they suddenly appeared in her room so early in the morning. Su Wenyu felt a little uncomfortable that her privacy had been invaded. If she hadn't been pregnant, even Grandma Chen and Xiao 11 would not have been allowed in during their daily breaks without her and Han Yu's instructions. Although Su Wenyu felt uncomfortable, she still had a smile on her face. Mom, you were tired from traveling all day yesterday, why did you get up so early in the morning? I will have the kitchen prepare breakfast now, and I will have someone take you and Dad there later. It was a long trip around the town. I had to take a look around. Originally, my husband and I were supposed to take you there in person. My husband had to go on duty in the camp, and I was too big to go out. I have to ask my servants to take you there, otherwise I will ask Xiao 11 to take you there. She has lived in the Han family for so long and is familiar with you. You are working hard with your child, so don't worry about us 2 old ones. We can do whatever we want. I got up early today, killed one of the old hens I brought yesterday, and made a big pot of stew for you. Soup, this chicken soup is the most nourishing. Yang came over with a smile, stretched out his hand to touch Su Wenyu's belly. His eyes were burning, as if Su Wenyu had a golden egg in his belly. Su Wenyu's smile froze. Mother, you have worked hard. I have Nanny Chen and the others to take care of you. How can I trouble you? Just tell them to do the kitchen work. Nanny Chen and the others were also very perceptive. The old lady insisted on coming into the master's room, and they, as servants, couldn't stop her. Seeing Su Wenyu getting up, they hurried over to help her get up. Yang felt that her daughter-in-law was a little spoiled. When she was pregnant, she still went to work in the fields. Her daughter-in-law didn't have to do anything, even needing help to put on clothes. However, her son was happy to spoil her, so she didn't say anything, so as not to say that she was too nosy. As long as her daughter-in-law could give birth to her precious grandsons, she would be fine. Thinking that her daughter-in-law was carrying 2 babies in her belly, Yang's smile became brighter. After washing up, Su Wenyu saw a big bowl of greasy chicken soup brought by her mother-in-law. She felt very hungry and had no appetite at all, but her mother-in-law kept urging her to drink more while it was hot. Su Wenyu thought it was her mother-in-law's good intention, so she had to pinch her nose and drink the chicken soup. But she didn't expect that the morning sickness that hadn't occurred for a long time came back at this time. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, Tianni. Chapter 197. Mrs. Yang got up early in the morning and made chicken soup to replenish her daughter-in-law's health. She put a lot of thought into it, but she didn't know that her daughter-in-law was picky and vomited out everything she drank. Her efforts were in vain. "Fourth daughter-in-law, are you okay?" Ms. Yang asked worriedly. Although she was a little unhappy, she knew it was her daughter-in-law's fault. There was nothing she could do about her morning sickness. "It's okay." Su Wenyu waved her hand, but before she could finish her words, she started to vomit again when she smelled the strong smell. Seeing this, Aunt Li quickly took away anything that might cause Su Wenyu discomfort, including of course the big bowl of chicken soup that Yang made. Seeing that Su Wenyu couldn't eat it, Yang felt that Su Wenyu really didn't know how to enjoy happiness. It was so good. He couldn't eat anything, so he couldn't bear to drink it, so he left the chicken soup for Hanyu. "Madam, are you feeling better? You haven't eaten anything this morning. I made some light food. You should eat some at least. You can't starve the child in your belly." Aunt Chen brought over a food box, which was freshly prepared from the kitchen. She said with some worry on her face, "My wife's morning sickness has already been cured." She was watching while the old lady of the Han family was making chicken soup. "Yes, I knew that the lady's taste was mentioned a few times, but the old lady refused to believe it, but she kept saying that the child in the belly must be well fed and well fed. Naturally, a servant like Granny Chen cannot be with the old lady." The wife argued, especially since she was the person close to the wife. If she said something wrong, it would easily make the old lady think too much, which would cause trouble. The relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law has never been so easy to deal with. Su Wenyu felt much better after a while. Her stomach was empty and she was so hungry that she wanted to eat. During that time, Su Wenyu had already had morning sickness. This time it happened again. Su Wenyu tried to eat in small bites. "After eating some, I found that not only did I feel no discomfort, but I also had a good appetite, so I let go." Yang originally thought that Su Wenyu was suffering from morning sickness because she couldn't eat the food she cooked. But when she saw that Su Wenyu had no discomfort after eating so much food, she started to mutter in her heart. She was inevitably a little suspicious. Could it be that the fourth daughter-in-law did it on purpose? "Did you do this because you were angry about what happened before?" The more Yang thought about it, the more likely it was, and her face darkened. She didn't care about being a mother-in-law anymore. The fourth daughter-in-law was really not a good one. If she didn't like it, she could tell it, but she had to make that gesture. If she didn't believe it was really morning sickness, she would react just by eating what she cooked. However, Yang didn't have an attack no matter how unhappy she was. It was all for the sake of her eldest grandson. Even Wang did such a thing. It can be forgiven. Yang can also tolerate Su Wenyu for her grandson, but this only deepens the misunderstanding. Hanyu was a little worried when he came back in the evening and heard that Su Wenyu had vomited again. Seeing that Su Wenyu was in good spirits, he felt relieved. "Why did you vomit again? Isn't it said that it's healed? How do you feel now?" During that time, Su Wenyu was very thin due to morning sickness, and she was pregnant with twins. She was undernourished and might be in danger at any time. Hanyu was really worried day and night, and there was a shadow. "I feel pretty good now, but the bowl of chicken soup in the morning was too greasy. When I woke up, my stomach was empty and I couldn't stand such greasy things. It's a pity that my mother felt so bad. I don't know if my mother was angry, so when I felt that Yang must be angry. Although she didn't say anything on her face, women's feelings are sometimes very sensitive. When Han Yu entered the house, he was called over by Yang and drank the chicken soup left. That was when he learned about the morning sickness. No, it's not your fault. Mom will understand. That's good. So when Yu didn't really care whether Yang was angry or not, she just expressed her stance to Han Yu and wanted to see Han Yu's attitude. Old man Han and Mrs. Yang came, and they didn't mention when they would go back. So when Yu naturally couldn't ask, but her mother-in-law's habit of pointing fingers really bothered her. Because of the morning sickness, Mrs. Yang never made chicken soup for Su Wen Yu again, but he took over the kitchen affairs and said that the servants in the kitchen were extravagant and didn't know how to save. They insisted on taking care of the kitchen affairs. The food in the past 2 days has also become worse. Fourth daughter-in-law, I'm not telling you, you can't be too tolerant to your servants. Look at what is being eaten for each meal. If this continues, this item alone will cost a lot. It's not easy to earn a salary when you go out early and come home late. You have to learn how to run a household. Yang was a little excited when he said this. The servants here have much better food than they did at home. Not only the white rice, but also every day. There is also meat in it, which is too luxurious. Mom, there are rules for servants' spending. It's not good to treat them too harshly. How can you work hard if you don't have enough to eat? So when Yu couldn't directly tell Yang to leave it alone, so she could only express her meaning tactfully. What do you mean? Don't pay attention to work and leave them to do whatever they want. Besides, I think you have too many servants. Even if you don't need monthly money, it's still a big expense just for food. Why don't you refund the extra people? When you go back to the Su family, live your life in a practical way. What's the use of looking good? You don't have to spend money. Su Wenyu felt a little annoyed after hearing Yang's lesson, but it happened that she was facing her mother-in-law, so she couldn't get angry and had to explain nicely. Mom, my husband specially asked my mother to bring these servants here. There is no reason to go back. It can't be kept in vain. If you really can't sell a few, you can still get some money to supplement the family income. Besides, it's your parents' family. Don't your parents love you? They shouldn't mind whatever you want to do. After all, Ms. Yang is just a peasant woman in the countryside, with limited vision and knowledge. She only thinks that she is right to think so, and she is doing it for the sake of her son and daughter-in-law. Her daughter-in-law is too ignorant. She is taking care of the family for her son. Woolen cloth. Yang's words were not evasive. As soon as she said them, Grandma Chen and the others turned pale. They didn't really like this gesticulating old lady, but the old lady was your mother, so she was considered a member of the family. Master, they can't find fault with their master. Even if they are dissatisfied, they endure it. How could they know that this old lady actually instigated his wife to sell them? No matter how well educated you are, you won't have any thoughts after hearing these words. Mom, what can be sold or not? My husband is doing a good job as an official now, so why would he want to sell his people? Wouldn't it be a joke if people spread the news, thinking that our family can't afford to support several servants, so let my husband's colleagues. How do you think about it? Now that my husband is an official, things in the officialdom are complicated and not as simple as you think. Just leave this matter alone. Su Wenyu's tone was already impatient, and she felt annoyed at this old lady. If you deliberately cause trouble for her, you can't just sit around and do nothing. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, Tianni. Chapter 198. Why is this so complicated? Why does it involve the fourth child? Yang heard that this matter had an impact on Han Yu. Su Wenyu's words seemed to have some truth, so she shut up angrily. She was not involved in officialdom matters. The peasant woman in the countryside was at a loss. She didn't know anything. If the fourth daughter-in-law really said this, she really couldn't sell him. At most, she could save some money on weekdays, but she must not affect her son's career. Watching the old lady go out, her face immediately darkened, and she wanted to vent her anger. Looking at Granny Chen and the others around her, she found that she was not unreasonably angry. Aunt Chen and Aunt Li would rather Su Wenyi vent her anger to avoid suffocating themselves. "Madam, you must relax. After all, the old lady is from a low background and has a low vision. It is inevitable that she will not think carefully about some things. Don't be angry and hurt your body. Being angry is not good for the child in your belly." Su Wenyi also knew this truth. Even if she was angry, she could still control it. It was because of Yang's words that she let Aunt Chen and Aunt Li know her attitude. The loyalty of the servants also needs to be maintained. Although both she signed a death contract and could let her do whatever she wanted, but there was a difference between being dedicated and not being dedicated, not to mention that the people her mother sent were all very good, and she didn't want people to feel cold-hearted. "I don't have anything to do with you, but don't take my mother-in-law's words to heart. Mom sent you to me, so she must be good. I don't have the same good conditions as the Su family here, but when you get here, you are a family. As long as you are here, you are all good. You work hard and be loyal to me, and I won't let you end up in vain." They were grateful that the madam could care about the thoughts of their servants. No matter how dissatisfied they were with the old lady just now, they didn't mind it much at this time. After all, their master was the madam, and the madam would not treat them badly, let alone it is impossible to sell them. Although the conditions in the Han family are not as good as those in the Su family, life here is very relaxed, just like a big family. There are not so many rules and regulations. As long as they keep their duties, they don't have to worry about other issues. Master is kind-hearted and all the slaves are awake. We didn't take the old lady's words to heart. "Madam, don't think too much. Pregnant women should not overthink. The doctor told me." When Han Yu came back, he was asked a lot of questions by Yang. Han Yu was a little confused, but he still answered patiently. However, even after talking about official affairs, his mother would not understand, so why did he suddenly ask these questions? Han Yu probably guessed what his wife said. After Han Yu left, Mrs. Yang murmured to old man Han, "This time, the fourth daughter-in-law did not lie to me. The things in the officialdom are too complicated. Fortunately, the fourth daughter-in-law can handle it." Yang sighed at first, but then became a little proud, feeling that her son was really capable, otherwise he would not be able to cope with so many things. Old man Han shook his head when he saw his old wife like this. You just like to think too much. When did the fourth wife deceive you? If you don't understand these things, don't get involved. Besides, our family is divided. You don't care. Too much is not appropriate. Why is it inappropriate? Even if we separate, you is still my son. My daughter-in-law can't take charge of the family. What's wrong with me taking care of it for my son? Yang said unconvinced. When old man Han saw his old wife sighing like this, he went to smoke by himself. Su Wenyu was in a bad mood because of Yang, and everyone around her was also cautious. As soon as Han Yu came in, he found that something was wrong with the atmosphere. Especially when he saw his wife's calm face and thought of the questions his mother had just asked, he already felt something in his heart. After all, even Han Yu had some headaches when dealing with this kind of problem between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Daughter-in-law, what's wrong? You look unhappy. Did your mother do something to make you unhappy? Han Yu did not evade but directly mentioned that his wife is not a stingy and fussy person. Let's talk about anything. That's fine, otherwise it will only become more uncomfortable if you hold it in your heart. Su Wenaya couldn't vent to others, so she was just waiting for Hanyu to come back. When Hanyu asked, she didn't say the reason. Without saying a word, she clenched her fist and hit Hanyu to vent her frustration. The wife's little strength was not even enough to tickle him. After seeing that she was almost done, Hanyu hugged his wife and held her in his arms. She was still pregnant, so it was good to let off some steam. If she moved too much, she was afraid of hurting her stomach. Child. Okay, now that you've vented your anger, can you tell me why you're unhappy? Su Wenaya glanced at Hanyu, and only this time told what happened today, emphasizing her dissatisfaction with her mother-in-law for interfering in family affairs. What does your mother mean? She actually said that she wants me to send people back. Have you ever thought about my position? How do you want others to see me? How do my family members see me? In her eyes, I am a daughter-in-law. It doesn't matter, you don't need to consider my feelings at all, right? And there are so many servants in the house just because you want my mother to come. It's better now. Su Wenaya became more and more angry and felt aggrieved. It's my fault. Don't be angry. I will explain these things clearly to my mother tomorrow. Just take good care of the baby. Now your belly is getting bigger. It's already hard work. Don't make yourself uncomfortable because of this. What's the matter? Just tell me, if you're angry, you can't pay for it. Hanyu coaxed softly, soothing his agitated daughter-in-law, thinking about how to tell his mother tomorrow, so as not to have any negative effects. This makes the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law even worse. After getting Hanyu's assurance, Su Wenaya was satisfied. She touched her belly and felt a little hungry. She asked the servants to bring in some midnight snacks to eat with Hanyu. Since the morning sickness was over, her appetite has been particularly good and getting bigger. Maybe the two children in her belly are absorbing nutrition. I don't know what Hanyu and Yang said. The next day, Su Wenaya saw that Yang was a little unhappy and ignored her. She didn't come to talk to her about anything. She still didn't let go of the kitchen. Su Wenaya just let her do it. Anyway, she wouldn't live here permanently. Yang said before that she would go back after staying here for a few days. It would pass if she endured it. There was no need to make a big fuss. Madam, Aunt Feng is here. She said that you like to eat her pickled sister, so she brought 2 jars here, which is enough for you to eat for a long time. Because of Su Wenaya's attitude, the servants of the Han family were also very enthusiastic and polite to Feng Susu, and brought her in directly. Aunt Feng is here, let her in, Su Wenaya said happily when she heard that Feng Susu had come. Her efforts paid off, and her relationship with Feng Susu finally became much closer. Who is this Aunt Feng? Yang looked at Feng Susu being led in by the servants, and whispered in a low voice, a little curious. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, TNNI. Chapter 199. Yang herself didn't have any feelings for Feng Susu. It was because the servants in the family were too enthusiastic, so she couldn't help but guess. However, since the last time she said she wanted to sell someone, the servants in the family have been very polite to the old lady. But with a sense of alienation. When Yang asked about it, the people below kept silent and said they didn't know. The old lady was frustrated and had no choice but to watch Feng Susu go in with her eyes wide. Auntie is here. I have been getting heavier and heavier these days and can't go out. I just hope that Auntie can come to see me and chat with me. Su Wenayu asked Xioxi to take the basket from Feng Susu's hand and said with a smile, Feng Susu, she was really happy from the bottom of her heart to be able to come, and her previous efforts were not in vain. As long as you don't dislike Yu Niang, I will come often in the future. Feng Susu also found that Mrs. Han was a very cheerful person, easy to get along with, and she was willing to reciprocate. Tyre didn't come here today, but she set up a stall, so when Ayu mentioned and Tai. He was a lovely child, obedient and sensible. Yes, as long as the weather is good, Tyre will definitely go to the streets and set up a stall. The family relies on the money he earns from writing letters. Tyre is a filial man and refuses to let me take on the heavy work. He says that it will cost his body. It's not worth it to be exhausted. Speaking of her son, Feng Susu was very distressed, but also proud. Tyre is really a sensible child. It's just that the world is getting harder and harder now. Setting up a stall on the street is probably getting harder and harder to make money, and it's not that safe. So when Ayu heard the news and the higher UPS had begun to reform the currency system, but it hadn't been implemented yet. Xinyi came here, but she thought it would come too soon, and there would be chaos again. Others didn't know, but she had experienced the things in her previous life, but she knew very well how bad things would be. There is nothing we can do about this, Feng Susu sighed. The two of them didn't even have a place to live. If they couldn't find a way to make money, they would have to go to the streets to beg. Auntie, how about you and Tyre come to my place to work? Nowadays, the world is becoming more and more unstable. Although my place is not as rich and powerful as others, it is still a safe place. So when Ayu has no shortage of people here, but there is only 2 more people. It's not that I can't afford it, but I'm mainly afraid that when the outside world is in chaos, Feng Susu and her son don't know where they will drift to. Su Wenayu doesn't want to waste so much effort on the person who has spent so much time on her, and Feng Susu and her son know that they are a kind person deserves her help. How can this be done? Yu Eniang, you saved my Tyre's life. I am already very grateful. I don't know how to repay you. I can't cause you any more trouble, Feng Susu refused without thinking. She was not that waiting. How can a person who is trying to push his limits ask others to help him again and again? Besides, although life is more difficult now, it is not unbearable. Auntie, I know that you are a kind-hearted person and don't want to cause trouble to me, but you also have to think about Tyre. I'm afraid you still know about it, but I heard the news. The court has now issued a new regulation. The law will be implemented soon. Ever since the new law comes down, there will be chaos. It is really unsafe for Tyre to set up a stall on the street, and he will probably have less income. Why, how could this happen? This world is really not easy for people to live in. Feng Susu was a little shocked after hearing Su Wenayu's words, and said calmly. There's nothing we can do about it? Otherwise, I wouldn't have made such a suggestion knowing my aunt's personality. But don't worry, Aunt, we don't have to sign a contract if you come over. We just stay here. If something happens and you want to leave, I will never stop him. I have asked my husband to find out the news about Tyre's father. My aunt can get the news as soon as possible if she lives here. Su Wenayu knew what Feng Susu cared about most, so she moved in Tai and her husband. Come out. But Feng Susu still hesitated. Most of all, she was afraid that mother and son would add trouble and burden to Su Wenayu. The Han family already had so many servants, and they had done enough. Auntie, please stop hesitating. I invited you here for my own reasons. I have taken a fancy to my auntie's craftsmanship. Your pickling skills are really good. I have never tasted anything better. I want everyone around me to do so. I want to learn from my aunt, but I'm afraid that she won't want to. It seems that I took advantage of my aunt, so don't blame me for taking advantage of my situation to take a fancy to your craftsmanship. Su Wenayu knew Feng Susu's temperament. After these words, Feng Susu was convinced. Feng Susu relaxed a lot after hearing what Su Wenayu said. Her pickling skills were passed down from her ancestors, and they were said to be a craft that was not passed down to others. But when she came to her place, she didn't care so much. It was already difficult to live in this world, even if she just casually she is willing to sell it for a little money, but who is willing to spend the money, let alone Yueniang is her benefactor. There is no way to repay her son's life-saving kindness. If Yueniang really takes a fancy to the prescription in her hand, she will definitely offer it with both hands. How could someone as smart as Yueniang not understand this truth? In the final analysis, she was just trying to help mother and son in a roundabout way. If she refused again, she would have wasted all her efforts. However, Yueniang really liked it when she saw it. The food she pickled can finally do something for her benefactor instead of just eating and drinking for free. Feng Susu felt much more at ease. No, Yueniang, how can you be the one who takes advantage of others? If you really covet my craftsmanship, you won't wait until this time. You just really want to help our mother and son. If I misunderstand, I will really without a conscience, I have nothing to repay Yueniang, so I can only do the skill. As long as Yueniang likes it, I will try my best to give it to you. Feng Susu agreed with Su Wenyu. Suggestions? Then let's make it clear. I'll have someone help Aunt move all the things here. Tyre is a smart kid. He doesn't need to set up a stall on the street anymore. He can learn more at home or learn martial arts from his elder brother Han. In this chaotic world, it's always good to have some kung fu to protect yourself. I think Tyre is a little weak. Even if he doesn't learn kung fu well, it can still strengthen his body, which is always beneficial. Feng Susu used to worry that her son was a little weak, otherwise he wouldn't have almost died of a cold last time. After hearing what Su Wenyu said, she was unwilling. Even though she felt a little uneasy because she was favored by Su Wenyu again, she still accepted it. That's great. We mother and son have no way to repay your kindness, Yueniang. We mother and son will repay your kindness even if we have to work like cows and horses. In the past, every time Feng Susu came, Su Wenyu always asked her to bring some food back. Since Feng Susu and her son were about to live in the Han family, they didn't bring anything this time. Yang had been paying attention to Su Wenyu's movements in the yard. When she saw Feng Susu come out and leave empty-handed, she thought Feng Susu came to give Su Wenyu a gift, so she didn't say anything. However, looking at the light basket, it should not have anything good. Rebirth of a Farming Wife. Author, Tian. Chapter 200. She looked like a poor woman, and she didn't know why these servants were so enthusiastic. Yang murmured to herself, watching Su Wenyu call the maid in again to give some instructions. Yang couldn't help but lean in to listen, so she just followed. The maid looked back to see what she was doing. You are cleaning the room here? Ms. Yang walked in and asked. This must be the order of her daughter-in-law. She didn't know what she was doing by asking the maid to clean the room. She was told by her son in the morning, although her son seemed to make sense. But Ms. Yang still felt uncomfortable. Those words were obviously biased towards her daughter-in-law. It was probably because Ms. Su said something to her and her son yesterday to sow discord between mother and son. Yes, Aunt Feng and her son will move in. My wife asked the servants to clean up 2 rooms for Aunt Feng and her son to live in. Baiko was the little maid bought by Han Yu who had just arrived. Although she entered the Han family very early, but the people serving Su Wenyu were not from the Su family, so they didn't seem confident enough, and Yang didn't dare not answer questions. What? You mean that poor woman just now would move in with her son? Why? Who are they and why are they allowed to move in? The women and maids around Su Wenyu didn't want to talk to her and looked at her. Respectful, but actually distant and cold. Even Xiao 11 no longer has the same close attitude as before, and Xiao 11 is with Su Wenyu. There are some things that Yang cannot ask Xiao 11, otherwise her daughter-in-law will definitely know, so she is still there until now. It is not clear what Feng Susu's background is. Bai Xiao was a little scared when she saw the old lady being so excited. The other servants around the madam were not afraid of being sold because they had the madam's backing, but she was afraid. When Yang asked, she answered honestly. Aunt Feng and her son were rescued by madam a few months ago. At that time, Aunt Feng's son had a cold and was about to die. It was our madam who was kind-hearted and gave us money to ask a doctor to cure Aunt Feng's son. Aunt Feng is grateful to madam for giving madam. I've come here several times to deliver things, and the lady is very kind to Aunt Feng and her son. That's all Bai Cao knew and could say, but when she saw the old lady's ugly face, she was frightened. She didn't know why the old lady was so angry. Okay, who is he? He was a random person he saved on the street, and he let someone live in his home so openly. I have never seen such a prodigal woman. My son worked so hard in the military camp. It's so lawless for this woman to be defeated and take advantage of outsiders with her salary. How about Su, does she still take my mother-in-law seriously? As Yang said this, he angrily walked towards Su Wenyu, but was bumped into by old man Han. Seeing how angry Yang was, he quickly stopped him. Old lady, what are you doing? You're so angry. Old man Han thinks that this probably has something to do with his daughter-in-law. He thinks her daughter-in-law is quite good. She is well informed, polite, and behaves with dignity. She also has a good personality. My mother-in-law has helped her son a lot. It is his blessing to find such a daughter-in-law. But the old woman doesn't know why. The older she gets, the more crooked her temper is. Her ears are soft. She always likes to find faults with her daughter-in-law. On weekdays, he didn't bother to care about it. After all, it was a matter between women, as long as it wasn't too much, but his daughter-in-law was still pregnant, so he couldn't let anything happen to the grandson of the old Han family. Mrs. Yang angrily told the matter to old man Han. The more she talked, the more she felt that her daughter-in-law was outrageous. Tell me, what's the point of this? We parents haven't even let them take care of us yet. She is good and spends money. Not only did she treat the mother and son, but she also brought an outsider into the house. Such a prodigal daughter-in-law should not ruin brother Yu's family fortune. No, I have to talk to her carefully today. Old man Han was not angry after hearing this. He felt that the fourth daughter-in-law was not wanton and she must have her reasons for doing so. The fourth daughter-in-law is kind-hearted in rescuing the mother and son. Saving one life is better than building a 7-level pagoda. The fourth daughter-in-law did the right thing. When it comes to supporting, we have separated our families. We will agree upon it when we separate. If we live with the boss, our share will also be divided on the boss's side. Besides, the fourth brother and his wife will provide us with money for our retirement every month. It's a bit unreasonable for you to say that. Then no matter what, she shouldn't have brought that mother and son into her home. She already had so many servants at home, and she didn't think the cost was big enough. Yang felt that Su Wenyu had done something wrong, and old man Han he couldn't stop the person and walked all the way to Su Wenyu's side. Su Wenyu saw her mother-in-law storming into her room angrily, without even knocking on the door. She clearly showed no respect at all, and her face darkened. She was not one of those daughter-in-laws who just got angry and acted like a petty child in front of her mother-in-law. The two forbearances were for Han Yu's sake, not for Yang's sake. What do you mean, mother-in-law? It doesn't matter if she rushes in like this and scares me. It would be bad if she scares the child in my belly. I thought my mother-in-law hurts the child in my belly. Su Wenyu originally didn't want to talk about the child in her belly, but for Yang's actions, it was not good for her as a daughter-in-law to blame her mother-in-law. Otherwise, even if she did the right thing, her reputation would not be very good, especially at this sensitive time. People outside are staring at their home, and if they are not careful, they will be used to make a fuss, so they have to take advantage of the mother-in-law's weakness. I think that Wang was holding the child in her belly as an excuse to make Yang. He lost his temper and was even forgiven for doing such wrong things. Sure enough, when Su Wenyu mentioned the child in her belly, Yang became angry again. She was even so angry that Su Wenyu's tone made her head smoke, but she suppressed her temper and lowered her voice. Fourth daughter-in-law, I want to ask you what's going on. Why did you let two outsiders live in the Han family? Don't you know how hard your husband worked in the military camp? You ruined the family like this. Yang suppressed her anger, her voice was not too loud but very sharp. Mother, I have my own considerations for letting Aunt Feng and her son live in. You don't have to worry about this. To put it bluntly, the Han family has been divided. Even if you are the mother-in-law, you can't interfere in our affairs. Anyway, my husband and I will not lack the filial piety that we should have. As for other things, you don't understand, so don't worry too much. Su Wenyu didn't explain, and said what she meant directly. The old lady's behavior in the past few days has made her unbearable. It's time to let her understand who the mistress of this family is and let her not stretch her hands too long. Su Wenyu's words almost made Yang vomit blood in anger. She couldn't hold back any longer. Su, don't be so arrogant. Even if the family is divided, I am still the fourth son's biological mother. I will not watch you ruin the family business that the fourth son has earned.